Thank you, Ayo. Well, it's the last trading days of April. Good morning, good evening, wherever in the world you might be watching from. Let's get to the top stories that set your agenda now, starting with the oil market. At this time, we're seeing downward movement there for oil prices. $88.75 a barrel. That's what we're seeing for Brent, down about 0.84%. U.S. information and inflation further dimmed the prospects of interest rate cuts anytime soon, and that's boosted the dollar. And we know how a strong dollar impacts the oil market there. We have that inverse relationship. We see WTI crude, $83.20 a barrel. That's down 0.78%. And some analysts are expecting that, oil prices could swing higher again if U.S. inventory data and China's PMI index show some kind of improvement this week. So we're looking out for that data at this time. Let's get a check on the FX market now. We see a significant depreciation trend we're seeing last week at the official window. The market rate declined by about 29 Naira, 35 kobo last week. At NAFEM, we see that closed about 2.24% down. And we see for NAFEX, 1,361 Naira. That was a close, and open at 1,346 Naira, down 1.09%. And this is despite CBN participating in NAFEM markets and also with the BDC. So we're seeing that weakness there for the Naira. But definitely we see that the BDCs are selling much cheaper than what we have here. That was over the weekend. And right here now, I know everyone's hogging on to their gallons, at this time. The ongoing scarcity of PMS or petrol that's continued across the country, leading to a surge in black market activity, with some vendors charging as much as 1,200 Naira per litre in certain areas. Many filling stations, some are not open, while the ones that are open, we see long queues for those dispensing the product. We see the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, they did say yesterday that the petrol scarcity currently spreading could last for 2 weeks. It might take about 2 weeks before it normalizes at this time. So definitely quite a tough one. I did struggle to get fuel. That was on Saturday. Had to buy about 750 Naira per litre. Quite stressful, very, very stressful, knowing that everyone's struggling with higher prices at this time. Anyway, let's get to the first conversation now. Well, with rising inflation and distortions in the FX market, definitely fuel scarcity is compounding the pressure on consumers at this time, raising transport costs for some commuters. Let's get a sense of what to expect now. Joining us now is Ugodre Ubuchukwu, CEO Nairametrics. Join us via Zoom. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Hey, same here, Ladi. Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. But I guess you're not in the country right now, so you're not really, you're not struggling with fuel, at this time.
No,
but definitely,
not at the moment.
Yeah, but definitely we're struggling here right now. Talk to me about how much the average Nigerian can take at this time.
Man, to be honest, I really don't know. It's just incredible how resilient Nigerians are to the myriad of problems that we're facing. They've told us fuel subsidy removal is going to solve the problem. Nigeria's stomach that. You've seen fuel subsidy more than quadruple. Fuel prices more than quadruple. Nigerians are stomaching that, yet you still have to be on the queue to buy a product that is not subsidized, in quotes, right? And then you've also seen electricity prices, subsidies being taken up for Band 8 customers. They still have to deal with the issue of lack of regular power supply. So I really don't know how much Nigerians can stomach. Someone else will tell you, well, maybe it's because we tend to find a way to stomach these things. That's why we're able to, these things are able to continue to happen. But I kind of think that it's a breaking point somewhere, and I hope that we don't get there anytime soon. But officials just need to deal with these issues. I think it's just pure embarrassing that you can even have a president from far away Dubai, talk to the global community about the benefits of taking up fuel subsidy and why Nigeria should be an attractive market. But yet, we can't get something as simple as ensuring that petroleum products are available to Nigerians at cost. So this is not like you're telling them to come and pay you're subsidizing, or you're saying you don't have product at cost, like, and nothing happens. Nobody gets fired. Nobody gets to resign. Everything just continues as usual, right? And that is what I just don't understand. You can't have people go through so much hardship and no, you don't see heads rolling. There's nobody taking nobody's responsible for this, and that's the part that kind of irritates me, Ladi. And
Right.
too bad Nigerians have to face this all the time.
I guess it's the consumer's head that gets to roll at this time. When we see all of this, it all comes back, to the consumer. The consumer has to pay for it. But I see there's a piece on your website on the rise of black tax in Nigeria. That's a tax on rich members, of the black community to provide support for financially less secure members, of a family. So talk to me about how, because definitely there's no data, at this time, but we definitely know that hardship, leads to more pressure, on those that are somehow financially stable. How's that piece looking?
Yeah, Ladi, interesting piece that we did. I mean, black tax is nothing new. I think most Nigerians are pretty familiar with black tax. Black tax basically is, poor people or, dependents relying on family to survive, either family that you have abroad or family that you have in urban areas, and waiting for handouts for them just so that you can continue to live and survive. And so it's not just synonymous with Nigeria, it's something that you have globally. But what we've noticed in recent times is the high dependence on black tax within Nigeria. Typically, it tends to come from abroad through diaspora remittances, which is a major source of forex inflow into the country. But we've seen black tax now pervasive within Nigeria itself. I mean, Ladi, I'm sure I can imagine how many people reach out to you for one or two handouts. Bros, find me something now. You know what I mean? So whether it's the people who are your friends, or whether it's the people who are just itinerant workers who are surround you, you see a lot of that. And what was incredible in our research and our findings is that we're now even seeing a rise of black tax amongst people that are employed. So you have maybe an employed worker who is probably living on maybe 100 or 120,000 naira per month, finding it difficult to survive. Imagine if that's what you earn and you're living in an area where electricity prices is now 270 naira or so per kilowatt hour, and fuel prices at almost 1,000, and you need to find a way to survive. You find out that over 50-60% of your income or 70% of your income is going towards just living expenses. So there's really nothing left for you. And so what you then do is you tend to look for somebody else to support you. And that's essentially what is sort of looking like what's keeping the economy together. So there's a rise in black tax. It's happening, it's pervasive. And you also there's not enough government support, even though you've seen government say that, they're giving a lot of handouts, stipends or conditional transfers to poor people, but it's not enough. It's not reaching out. So what happens? So if they don't steal from you, they ask you, they beg you. And so that is going to be on the increase as things continue to get worse. Now, what is also interesting, Ladi, is that we also did a survey and we found out that despite inflation at 33% in Nigeria, prices of goods and services are still relatively cheaper compared to most countries abroad. It's an incredible fact. Like, you can, a bottle of water abroad, you'll probably be getting about maybe, $2-3, right? Which is like 3,000 something naira. It's 60-70 ml, bottle of water, which in Nigeria, probably going for 600-700 naira. But what you then find out is it's wages that's the problem. So the purchasing power of Nigerians is so low that they can't even afford basic things that in most other countries are high. So Nigerians earn pretty low at 30,000, or whether it's 70,000 naira minimum wage, whichever, depending on which governor is talking, is still very low compared to most developing countries. It's still under $1 an hour or thereabout per our calculations, when you're seeing most countries doing $10, $14 an hour. So that is why you're going to keep seeing rise in black tax. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Nigerians living abroad to continue to support families here. There's going to be a lot of pressure on people like big men like you to support family members, friends and workers and colleagues. You're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see them come to you and ask you to help support with their rent payment. You're going to see them come to you and help support for even transportation to come to work. You're going to see them come to you beg for food just to eat, or get me something. And you're going to see more people beg you for even school fees. That's what's going to keep happening until we start to see wage increases climb up again.
And it's also quite painful when you see the supposed big man that you're looking up to that's also going to beg somebody for money. So it's some kind of network marketing of poverty we're seeing at this point. But talk to me about wages. We're expecting a new wage minimum wage announcement that's supposed to come May 1st, but we're hearing from Labour that negotiations are stalling, somehow. So we might not get that, But what are you expecting at this point? What do you think would be that number that would help, alleviate the sufferings, of Nigerians, and also not stoke inflation, because we're still dealing with inflation at this time?
So very good point. Personally, if you want to look at a number in isolation, you're probably looking at, by my own estimates, minimum 120,000 by my estimate. But I think it's going to be myopic to look at it in isolation, right? You have to look at it on a larger scale. Impact on the economy, impact on inflation. The real problem is it's not just inflation or wage increase, Ladi. The problem with Nigeria is productivity. We're not producing at scale. It's not just huge enough to create the sort of impact that you expect to even, stomach inflation or allow wages to go up. That's the problem that we're having in Nigeria. So without the sort of productivity that we need at GDP at 2-3% every year, and we're just struggling at inflation at over 30%, and we've been on stagnation on 2-3 years, it's not enough. Look, you can come out and make any announcement that you want. Where are you going to fund it from? How are you going to pay those salaries? Government is already on a 10-11 trillion fiscal deficit this year, and it's likely that they're not going to be able to go the 2025 budget without another fiscal deficit, adding debt to our entire portfolio. There's a lot of work going on the tax side, but it's still not going to be enough to plug it. So even if you do increase minimum wage, something has got to give. Are you going to be able to increase? How are you going to pay for it? Are you going to be able to increase taxes to pay for it? Or are you going to reduce civil service? Are you going to embark on civil service reforms that cut costs, which I really doubt that they can succeed in? So you tend to think that the solution here is around productivity. You've got to be able to grow this GDP higher. And I was happy when I heard the president talk about capital formation yesterday and how it is important to engineering growth in the country. He's 100% correct. But what are we seeing, Larry? We're seeing companies delist from the exchange. So where are you going to form that capital from? Where's the capital being formed? What Nigeria needs more than ever is global pool of capital in the country. You've got to have people come in with billions of dollars of capital to engineer growth in the country. And if that money is coming in, where is it going to come through? Is it going to come through the usual private, conduits, or is it going to come through an efficient stock market where we can see the flow of that money? Everybody can benefit from how that money is being used in the economy. Dividend is shared, is declared and shared. Government can tax appropriately. There is clear transparency and visibility. We've got to keep drumming that. That's the only way that you can grow this economy effectively. Government has got to find a way to channel capital into the stock market. I'm not seeing a lot of that's just a huge dislocation. And so long as you have stock market at 50 trillion or so, less than 30% of your GDP, we're not going anywhere. So that's what I want to see, Ladi. That's what I think a lot of the conversation should be about. Yes, minimum wage is very important. Like I mentioned, Nigerians are extremely poor when it comes to the purchasing power. But it's not just about making announcement or pointing out numbers or just dealing with inflation, as the CBN is saying. You've got to look at the economy on a larger scale, and productivity is very key here. And that is what I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing a lot of productivity at the moment. And it kind of looks like that is what we are sacrificing temporarily just to get inflation down. And if you continue on that trajectory, we're going to be back here next year complaining about the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. Like other years, we've seen at this time. But, talking about productivity, we've seen the CBN come out and say they're prioritizing tackling inflation, taming, inflation over high unemployment. And you did talk about, productivity there. And we need employment, to get productivity. And we need more people in that labor market. But, talk to me about this. Now, it looks like the CBN's hands are tied, at this point when it comes to, trying to tame inflation. We're seeing fuel scarcity at this time, which is going to play into higher transport costs, more inflation, going forward. So help us understand, this balance of, inflation and unemployment.
Ladi, there's one job that if they give you, you should try and avoid is the CBN government.
I will definitely avoid it. Definitely, for sure.
It's a very difficult job. I mean, you gotta pity the guy, and I mean, like trying all his best to solve a very difficult problem. And the CBN's point is, look, you've got inflation to deal with, and you've got unemployment, and then you've got growth. Which one do you prioritize? Because you can't fight everything at the same time, which was what the last CBN tried to do, through, high interest rates, and then on the other end, supporting intervention funds, just so that you can, sort of have the economy grow. That was the unorthodoxy of the previous year. But the current CBN is saying, look, we're not going to do that this time around. Why don't we just focus on fighting inflation? And that when you can fight inflation, and then unemployment can now, be what you can target. All fair and good. But like I said earlier, inflation, if you look at prices of goods and services in Nigeria, it has gone up, yes, but comparatively globally, it's still quite cheap. So you then ask yourself, okay, if prices are quite cheap, like anybody can go online and do a research. Use anything, you find out, even an Uber, a taxi, that's a ride-hailing taxi, it will probably cost you minimum $25 for a 30-minute trip in Europe or most Western countries. In Nigeria, if they charge you 6K, that means you're good. So comparatively, it's much cheaper in Nigeria when you look at in most countries. However, the problem is purchasing power, standard of living. So even at that price, there's a huge disparity between that cost that you're seeing and affordability. So that gap that you're seeing, it's not really about inflation as much as inflation is a problem. It's also about the purchasing power of Nigerians, and which is why I said it's productivity. So it's a fine balance for the central bank here. How do you, tackle high inflation that has a lot of, assumptions that are outside of your control? You've looked at fuel scarcity now. How are they going to tackle that? Oil prices are at $80, like you mentioned earlier. And so it's looking like it's about time we increase fuel prices. The World Bank said it last 2 weeks that current fuel prices is still subsidized. So it looks like government can't pay for that anymore. And that's why you're seeing all this fuel scarcity thing happen. So it's likely that prices will go up. You've seen electricity prices go up. That will also feed in on inflation when the next report comes out. So despite central banks' continuous increase in the MPR, is still chasing inflation. So you're not going to see that pass on effect anytime soon. So as much as they're trying to curb inflation, because on the other side, you're looking at FX differentials. So the wider the gap between Nigeria's inflation and US inflation, you tend to see the Naira depreciate further. That's one thing a lot of people don't tend to realize. Inflation differential is probably one of the major reasons why you keep having constant Naira depreciation as well. So that's why the CBN is fighting that from there. But at the same time, kind of looks like might be a losing battle because there are just so many factors that are outside of their control. And mind you, Laddie, you're not seeing this is not the end of price increases, right? You've just seen a cable TV, a cable, I don't want to mention their name, increase their prices recently. You're seeing telcos also say they want to increase their prices because they haven't increased prices. So you're still going to see a lot of companies increase prices in the next weeks and months to come, which is why I always say spend now, save later. Because yeah, the point is companies are going to keep increasing price. So regardless of what the central bank does, it's like a spiral. So you're not really addressing the solution, which is productivity. How do we ensure that we produce things in mass such that it can have that overall effect on prices and see prices come down? So that's the fine balance. That's why I said, to be honest, I'm not saying this because I'm one pro or whatever. I don't know how the central bank does this or how they're going to do it, but they have a very, very difficult battle on their hand. And at the same time, you also need the fiscal side to step up. They need to really step up here. It's good that the president is going out and saying all the nice things, but like people say, we don't want audio. We want action. We want to see that all these countries that we're going to have said, you know what, we're going to bring in $50 billion into this country in the next 2-3 years. Oh my God, you can't imagine what that would do to this economy. But so long as you don't see that happen, and you don't see real investments happen, FDIs, Laddie, not possible now. Look at the last 10 years. We've only done $10 billion or so in FDIs in the last 10 years. In FDIs for a country that wants to grow. It's not possible. You can't.
We're aiming to be a $1 trillion
Nigeria,
economy.
the World Bank says we need $100 billion to plug infrastructure deficits in this country. And we've only done $10 billion in the last 10 years in FDIs. In fact, half of that came in maybe the first 3 years of the last 10. So it just gives an idea of the sort of challenges we have to do.
Yeah, it's quite a tough one, definitely, because I don't even remember what stable prices actually feel like anymore. I've forgotten. I'm just used to high prices, and definitely it's a problem when people expect higher prices going forward. But it's always great having your perspective, Ugodre Obichukwu, CEO Naira Metrics. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's head straight to the markets now. Definitely last trading days of April. Tomorrow is the last trading day, definitely. So let's get a sense of how the market closed last week. And there you have it. Still a bearish run there, 1.39% down. And we see the all-share index below that 99,000 level. I guess we've taken our eyes off the 100,000 level at this point and now looking at 99. 55 trillion, that's what we have for the equity cap. Let's look at the trading activity last week. Now we see it's more activity, just deals in the red there, 37,000 deals in total. That's for last week. And 1.83 billion units of stocks traded, valued at 34 billion naira. So that was more than we had in the previous trading week. Let's look at the sectoral performance now. And we see the banking counter, not as bad as the previous week, but 3.10% down. That's for financial services. We've seen that banking counter that has lost from about 1,000 points. That's for the index, down to almost about 700 points. So we've seen big sell-offs there for the banking stocks. Consumer goods down 1.15%, industrial goods 0.38%. And we see just the insurance counter there. That's also financial services sector there. Marginal gain of 0.02%. Oil and gas down big, 1.41%. So we're seeing a lot of pressure right there in the market. UBA, Top Trade, Axis Holdings, Transnational Corporation, PLC. Those were the top trades for the week last week. And definitely we're looking out for what plays out this week. Top gainers, we see Suno Assurance was topping the counter with a 25% jump there for share price. Cap PLC, 24 Naira, up 20.21%. So those were the stocks that performed well, regardless of the downtrend we saw for the week. We see Ondo, big 19.57% drop there for Ondo, 11 Naira, 50 kobo. So that was a big sell-off there. Took the oil and gas counter down. Let's bring in my guest now, Mr. Olatunde Amolegbe, MD for Stevens Management Limited, joining me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show. Hello, sir. You might have to unmute. Because I see your mouth
moving. Nice.
Fantastic.
Good morning, Ladi. Nice to be here.
Good morning. Great to have you. Great to have you. We see data out over the weekend showing that foreign portfolio inflows into the stock market that soared in the first quarter of 2024. If we can put up that data for me now, we see $70 million out for Q1 compared to $39 million in the first quarter of 2023. So we're seeing about 415% jump there. That's for foreign portfolio investments into the stock market. Net outflows, though, we see $19 million. So less outflows from the market, definitely. Then total Forex transactions for the first quarter of 2024, 160 million. So I'm wondering, are the foreigners ready to come back to Nigeria's stock market? Is it out of the woods at this time?
I think they're testing the waters. I think the conditions are right for them to want to come back now. Firstly, you will see a situation where the fact that the CBN has cleared the backlog of the FX that is being FX forwards has given confidence to the market. They know that if they bring their money in now, they can get it out. And that's, I believe, has played a significant role in their interest in wanting to come back. Secondly, you also have to recognize the fact that, our valuation, the valuation of our equity market is considered to be generally low. So they are coming in now, they are coming in at very good prices for these, their equities. Number three, the dollars they are coming in now, they are bringing in now is coming out, they are bringing it in at higher valuation, meaning that, they are going to get more bang for the buck. They are getting more money for the dollars they are bringing in, as different from when they are bringing it at 500 Naira to $1. They are bringing it in now at over 1,000 Naira to $1, so they can buy more, and it is with more quantity. So all the conditions are right for them to want to continue to come in. I think they are still testing the waters. I think many more of them will still come in as with time, but we are getting there. So this is a good sign. This is a good thing for the stock market to be happening.
Talking about testing the waters, at this time, do you think the foreign investors are impressed with what they've seen so far in the first quarter, and maybe this will continue into the second quarter of 2024?
I believe so. The conditions are still right. The conditions are improving. So in as long as we continue to find stability in the FX market, and they believe strongly that when they bring their capital in, they can get it out whenever they want, more of them will start coming. And don't forget that a lot of the risk agencies and rating agencies have actually, repositioned Nigeria on their table. MSCI, for instance, has reclassified Nigeria to stand alone. Such as other agencies such as Fitch have also removed Nigeria from their rating table. I think that with the stability of in the FX market, you will see those ratings improving. It's very likely that MSCI might bring Nigeria back to its table. Is possibly reinstate Nigeria to the frontiers market, and if that happens, you will see that some of the foreign investors that are still staying by the sidelines will start coming back into the country. So I think that the few ones that have come in now are the ones that are a little bit more positive about the economy. The ones that are still skittish, by the time we start seeing those re-rating, more of them will start coming in. So this for me is a start. Many more will come in, and we'll still see those data continue to grow.
Right. Okay, very quickly now, before I let you go, we've seen this downtrend with the stock market, 98,000, that's for the all-share index at this point. Where do you see the bottom?
It's very hard to tell, Ladi, because, the way the financial market works is that, an impact on one tends to reflect on the other. So in as much as we continue to see see tightening in the money market and the fixed income market, we continue to see elevated interest rates. You are likely to see portfolio managers continuing to, if that continues to happen, share prices are likely to continue to be on the downward trend for now.
Right.
Until the point where, maybe the tightening stops and, we start seeing movement back into equities.
Okay, thank you so much. It was great having you, Persists, Olatunde Olegbe, MD, Arthur Stevens Asset Management Limited. Thank you so much. All right, so that's it for me on Business Morning. We'll track more market reactions later on Business Incorporated by 1 p.m. I'm Ladi Williams. I hand things back over to Sunrise Daily team.